any label, any identity is a limitation of who you are. For me, you see, travel is about getting rid of as many identities, as many labels as possible. Vertical travel for me is, first of all, the transcendence of these social stratums. And when you go to a place and you hang out with people who are 20 years older than you, 20 years younger than you, who are not part of your middle or upper class or lower class, wherever you are, who are from a different stratum of society. I am much more ambitious than I was before. It's just I realized that life is my work. Imagine that you are the CEO of the most important company in the world, and that is your life.
Welcome back to the Nomad Summit Podcast. And today we have an interesting guest, Estonian, but somebody who's lived in the UK for a long time. And your name is Ilona, and then I need help. Vinogradova.
You know, yes, I was born in Estonia, and I lived most of my life. And actually, I can't even say most of my life. I lived in London for 17 years. I lived in the US. I lived in Holland. I lived in many different countries. But you see, everybody who is from that part of Europe, when they hear the last name Vinogradova, they will hear my accent, they will think that I'm Russian. I have Russian blood, and I have Russian part of my family. I have Estonian part of my family. I also have a Tuvan part of my family. My grandfather, who was actually a real nomad. His family lived in the forest, and they had a cattle. So they were nomads moving that cattle from place to place.
Let's get started. Welcome to the Nomad Summit Podcast, episode 51.
Hello. Welcome.
Ilona, you've been on the road for years, but you told me when we spoke the other day that you don't really see yourself as a digital nomad. Why not?
Any label, any identity is a limitation of who you are. And actually, in the beginning, when I started to travel, I did not call myself anything. Traveler, tourist, digital nomad. It's what people start to call you at some point, But yes, I think to make it easier for some people who think like, okay, you've been living on the road for 5 years. Your work is location independent. You created your own job. So you might call yourself a digital nomad. For me, you see, travel is about getting rid of as many identities, as many labels as possible. Travel is about freedom. Freedom is basically unbecoming. Freedom is not becoming something more. I was a journalist. I am a woman. I am a dancer. I am a mother. I am a daughter. I am a lover. I am this. I am that. I don't want another label on me. I actually need these labels, But also, again, as I told you, my grandfather was a real nomad, and I spent all my childhood in Tuva. So I kind of witnessed that real nomadism. And maybe that blood of my nomads ancestors runs through my veins. So that's how I started traveling like this, with no home, no keys in my pocket, which these are the keys from that door. I don't have it. And that's freedom as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fear connected to that freedom, but ultimately it's exhilarating freedom. And that's what I value. But yes, I don't want to say I don't belong to digital. Call me what you want. It's just
You are location independent, right? You can work anywhere.
Yes, that's true.
You're a digital nomad.
I can totally resonate with what you're saying, as I also always try to limit my exposure to this foreigners and digital nomad community. Like last week, I went for a spontaneous trip to Da Nang just for 1 week, because I think 1 week is enough. I took part in AI hackathons and meetups and stuff, so I was very busy there. But I come to Vietnam because I love the Vietnamese culture. I love to dive deep into this. And when I'm here in Saigon, I meet no expats, no foreigners at all. I have some local friends. I'm again in a tiny co-working space, which is literally called Tiny, where only Vietnamese people work. I'm the only foreigner here. And that's, for me, the true life of being location independent and exploring and gathering more and more labels and stickers on my laptop. You mentioned you have created a job after you've been a journalist and other things. So what's the job that you have created?
Yes, you see, I've been a BBC journalist for 15 years and then a documentary filmmaker. And once I left London and I left the BBC, my first year, I thought like, okay, I actually gave myself 1 year. I thought I will go travel and I don't work, it's just a year of freedom, of one-way ticket, no plan, no bucket list, nada. Just you go, and by the end of a month, you feel which next country you want to go. And that's how it was. But I think on the month 6 or 7, some people started to reach out and kind of saying that, can you recommend me someone who can help our newsroom to do that and that? And they knew that I worked for the BBC. And while I was working for the BBC, I could not work as a consultant, That's how I started. Basically, I created my company called Love in Films. And because initially the idea was that I would mainly do documentaries. But then it was COVID, just post-COVID. And then we worked a lot actually in Europe, but also in Russia and Ukraine. Then the war started between Russia and Ukraine. So it was just easy to get access to places where we were filming. So, and then when I started traveling, I basically kind of repurposed that company. Instead of producing documentaries, I do now media consultancy. So I do consult newsrooms around the world on digital storytelling, on audience engagement, on AI implementation, and AI implementation not to create more content, more like how AI can help you to understand your audience better and help you to generate revenue. So more like different types of workflow, not necessarily producing more content, because we don't need more AI created content. We actually need more human content.
Less slop.
But as I told you, Pale, before when we had a chat, I get bored. When something you've been doing for years, in a way, it's kind of easy. You feel like, yes, you can do certain things with eyes closed. Then you get bored. And I'm now at this point again, when I want to pivot in my professional life. I want to do something different. And as journalists, we have a lot of transferable skills, a lot, You basically understand it when you start working by yourself. So I'm thinking now, something will happen. I'm thinking now that I will either pivot into completely different industry, but with storytelling. Storytelling is essential to me, whatever I do.
You understand? No hash?
There was already a very interesting life lesson in what you said before, and that is how you transitioned from the skills that you had into a new job that you created, a B2B consultancy job. And now you're thinking of doing the next transition, but always based on the skill set that you have. And now I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are looking like for this transition process. What's on your vision board for the next step?
Yes, no, I also just want to second what you said, that of course, when all these stories, which are quite popular on whatever, be it Substack or Instagram, people say, I started my life from zero after 40. Come on. After 40, you never start from zero. I mean, you always build up. You build on something you had. Even if you do something which you haven't done before, but you're building on. And that's why I think also a lot of people have this fear. Oh, okay, it's easier to start when you're 20, 30, but what about when you're 40, 50? Guys, now when I'm living on the road, I meet a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, who travel, who leave their settled life behind, and who kind of reinvent themselves. It's okay. The best ever time is always now. Never yesterday, never tomorrow. It's today. It's now. So you always can start now. Pivoting, yes. So I'm thinking about, it's funny, somebody said, you see, at some point in your life, now more and more people refer to me as a traveler. So if before, almost like my professional identity was a journalist, filmmaker, now people say, oh, but you are a traveler.
Another label.
Yeah, on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, it made me think, Palle. It made me think, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I am a traveler, but that's what I'm doing for the 5 years. And travel is a storytelling. Again, a lot of storytelling connected to traveling. So I'm thinking that I might be doing some very rare bespoke travel experiences, I don't even want to call it a journey tour. It will be an experience for a small group of people. I will take them to whatever country way I want to show them the country. It's not through the sightseeing. It's not through the locations. It's through the people and through my idea of vertical traveling.
Yeah. And that's what I want to get into now, because you coined a phrase called vertical travel. You share a lot of great stories and great articles on your Substack. And I read something you wrote about vertical travel. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. So I was, you see, most of us, we travel horizontally. What do I mean by travel horizontally? So whenever you go somewhere, who do we spend most time with? We spend time with people from our own social strata, from our social circle, same kind of age, same kind of education, same class, even if it's not conscious but subconscious, that's what we do. That's the easiest access we have to this kind of people, right? We don't hang out with, street cleaners. We don't hang out with people who are lower than us in a social stratum. And we don't hang out with millionaires or top scientists or owners of the biggest corporation in this country, because we also don't have access to them, right? Vertical travel for me is first of all the transcendence of these social stratums. And when you go to a place, or if you stay in your own city, and you hang out with people who are 20 years older than you, 20 years younger than you, who are not part of your middle or upper class or lower class, wherever you are, who are from a different stratum of society. And for me, that kind of travel is the most eye-opening. But when I talked to one of my friends, he said to me, "Oh my God, that would be so uncomfortable for me. No. That's really it's not for me. I don't want to approach. It takes a lot of energy to approach those people, to find those people." You see, again, for me as a journalist, you might relate to this, Pale. It's so natural. It's natural to go vertically, Same day, I go out with the people who protest in Indonesia against their vicious MPs. But same evening, I go out for dinner with an MP or with a minister who they protest against. And you have a normal human-to-human conversation. And you understand some sort of reasons and motivations why they are how they are. I don't know, when you talk to them as human being to human being, you always have more empathy and more, you feel like I could be in your shoes, man. So it's not, I don't want to judge you, because if I never meet you, I can judge you.
Tell me how to do that. When I arrive to a new place, how do I become more of a vertical traveler than a horizontal?
Be curious. Curiosity is the key. Just if you're curious, you will find your way. I was walking in Vienna, in Austria, not to take any exotic destination. Europe, Vienna. I am in a museum of Viktor Frankl. And this museum where there's also a apartment where he used to live. So I was walking in the museum, and then I thought it's interesting building. So I went upstairs, and I was thinking also, what about his second wife, Ellie Frankl? And then I went upstairs, I wanted to see the building. And then I see on the door the name, Ellie Frankl. And I thought, my God, his wife is still alive? It was 3 years ago I was in Vienna. And my first instinct was just to knock on her door, because I also do this. I knock on people's door. But again, it might be uncomfortable for some people. But I realized that she was alive. So next day, I found her son, and I asked permission to visit her. So it ended up me going to a place where Viktor Frankl lived his last 30, 40 years with her, and we sat down with her, and I recorded an interview with her. I just want to have this conversation with you, and she was happy to do this. Be curious. And also, remember, I think one thing, that people who you might think that they're not approachable, they're too big or too small for you, people are approachable, however big or however small they are. If you come to them with some sort of shared observation, some sort of a shared humanity again, people are so happy to open up. And I think we are forgetting this. We have also this fear to approach another human being, especially if we feel that we are from different circles. But people are much more open than we think. If, let's say, you come to someone, I don't know, film star, and if you come to that person and say, "Oh, can I take a selfie with you?" It's one thing. That kind of approach will never lead you to conversation and maybe dinner with that person. But if you say in that whatever 30 seconds you have with that person, if you say something about his latest film, some genuine observation, that might lead somewhere.
What if we're just in a place for a couple of weeks? Is it really possible to build some real connections?
Yes, also, yes, possible, of course. But again, you see, our modern world, our expectations from friendships, from romantic relationships, it has to last forever, or at least it has to last for a long time. So we kind of undervalue the relationship which can last for 2 weeks, but that can be super intense and super valuable. I'm talking about connection, human connection, friendship. And yes, when you travel, of course, oh my God, the deep existential conversations I have in almost every single country, which happen by serendipity, you don't really plan and all that. These people and these conversations stay with me for years. And so what? I might never see this person again. But this person touched my heart, and maybe I touched his or her heart. I think that we need to value that, yes, we can, of course, build something in 2 weeks, but it might not last, and that's okay. And that's super valuable, and I'm super grateful for that. Yes, it's much more difficult, of course, that if your expectation is that whoever you met on the road, it has to last. It might not, because it just naturally goes like this. You go your way, he or she goes their way. And then I have another question from people. Oh, you people who live on the road, do you have any issues with commitment? You don't know how to commit? Listen, I'm saying, do not take any human being out of context. Yes, now I am in a phase of my life that I am moving around the world. But I was in a phase of my life when I lived settled life in London in one city for 15 years, And I was in a long-term relationship and I have a child and all that, because all the judgments that only women with no children, with no relationship can do what you do. Bullshit. No, anyone can do. It's just, again, we are all fluid. We are flexible. We are not carved in stone. So we can change. But people, when they meet you and kind of in this stage of life, and they think that that's how it always was and always will be. But no, it will not be like this. Maybe in a year's time, I will get settled again, but then I will get unsettled again. I don't know. know.
Yeah, I think that's a very good essence to which people often come after a long time of traveling. The more different cultures you see, the more different lifestyle and life choices you see, the more your own perspective, your normal shifts. And I think that's a key takeaway that often comes down to in conversations with seasoned travelers, experienced travelers, talking to the newbies, that you lose. Now, losing sounds like a negative thing. You are getting rid of these filters that you start your travel with, and you see the world with very different, less judgmental eyes. You're kind of
getting rid of dualities. What is right, what is wrong.
Yeah.
Because what is right for you is wrong for me. Because you see, we live in this kind of dualistic world, right, wrong, white, black, good, bad, us and them. That's the most dangerous dualism, us and them. Again, while I'm traveling through different cultures, and again, I never live in hotels. I always live in homestays with people. I try to live with locals, But so us and them, I realize more and more, us is them. We are the same,
All humans, yes.
Exactly. Because again, you might not speak my language. You might not have my cultural background, whatever. That's not what connects us. What connects us, we know on a body language. I punch you, you feel pain. I hug you, you melt, you soften on the edges. That kind of language, is understandable for every human being in the world. I smile at you, you smile back at me. You shout something angry at me, but I smile back at you.
Yeah.
You are taken aback and you smile and you want to do something good for me.
And on that topic, you wrote something about you're learning a lot of different languages, but the one language that really meant something special to you is the language of silence. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yes, it's a lot of talking about belonging as well. I think that's partly what you are also interested in. People often ask people who travel and move from place to place, where do you belong to? It's another way to ask, where are you from? Where is your home? And I thought deeply about this question. Where do I belong to? Because yes, I am a child of different cultures and I'm proud of this. I'm enriched with this. I am always an immigrant, a foreigner. I am fine with this. But finally, I don't know, it started to kind of come back home, so to say. I realized that I'm rooted in my own body. I belong to my within. Whatever is within, I belong to that. It's like, when you realize that you are a drop in an ocean, but also the ocean. You are and. It's not either or. It also came a lot through meditation. So when you meditate, and I do a lot of group meditation. Some call it Vipassana. I do different. So you do Vipassana or you do other group meditations. When the longest I've done was for 2 months. So it's 2 months of silence, 2 months of no reading, no writing, no distractions, no phone, of course. It is interesting that silence, and that in Sri Lanka was my first time when I sat through this silent group meditation for weeks. I realized that silence is a language. And you see, even my childhood silence, of course, as children, we know what silence is. And often our parents punish us by silence, or some other people, our friends might punish us by silence.
Or a partner.
Exactly. I had a negative connotation with silence. But then I understood that silence is such a beautiful, joyful, loving language. Because we did not talk. We were 20 people meditating weeks silently. Hours and hours we sat together. I heard the breathing on the right, the breathing on the left. We ate together. You observe, we worked, we walked, we exercised together. You observe, people around you. And without any words, I knew more about those people. They became, in a way, my family. Silence is a beautiful language. I think the most difficult thing, though, is to continue practicing this language in your daily, normal life when you're out of that specially created atmosphere, when you are in a nice location with a group of people and you are intentionally silent. How to do it in your daily life? I do micro meditations. Every task I finish, I do 8 minutes. 8 minutes total stillness and silence. It's such a rest, to rest, reset in a way. Mm. My teachers told me that it's easy to meditate when everything around is silent, when nothing is annoying us. But now try to meditate when the traffic is loud and some annoying maybe karaoke is there. It took me 2.5 years that words to come from my head down to my guts. So now I actually do it on purpose. I don't seek for, silent places. I go into loud places and I sit still. And everything annoys me, everything irritates me. I just sit with this annoyance and irritation. And it subsides. At some point, it subsides. And everything, you just sit with it still, Nobody taught us this at school either. And, I think, again, for any traveler like us, guys, who've been on the road for years, who do not now have a traditional career, I don't know, maybe people asked you as well, but when I left the BBC, many people asked me, I was the head of the department, and they asked me, Mike, why you left a prestigious job, and nowhere, you went nowhere. Aren't you ambitious anymore? That was the question. And I am realizing, I am much more ambitious than I was before. It's just I realized that life is my work. Life is my work. Imagine that you are the CEO of the most important company in the world, and that is your life. That kind of responsibility we all have towards ourselves, to live our life, because life is our work. But again, the whole life around us is not built upon that premise, unfortunately.
Thank you, Ilona. That's a beautiful thought. You are now in Hoi An. What's next for you? Have you already made a decision where you want to go next?
Yes. So usually, because I'm been here now for 1.5 months, I stay probably another month. Then I go back to China. I'm really fascinated with China. I go back, and then probably I go to the Himalayas. So, and then I don't know. Then I don't
Where
know.
in China are you going?
I'm going actually this time because I was there before. So this time I go to Shenzhen, Chengdu, and Chongqing. I know that you've been to Chengdu.
For everyone listening, we will put links into the show notes of the episodes that I recorded both in Shenzhen as well as in Chengdu.
Yes, and I've been to Dali. I see that you like Dali. Yes, I've been to Dali as well. Yes, but you see, again, in terms of location, yes. But in terms of, again, is in a job interview, I'm appalled, but people who hire still ask this question. How do you see yourself in 5 years' time? But again, what do we expect from people to answer? We expect some, again, professional goals and all that. I see that I am alive. And because I am alive, I do what fulfills me. And what fulfills me touches my own life as well as other people's lives in a kind, positive, profound way. And what touches me and other people's lives in a positive way brings me money and energy and gives me freedom to own my time.
Yeah.
To work from where I want, with whom I want, and when I want.
Do you ever go back to Estonia?
Yes, because my mom is still there, so I go visit her.
There is a good occasion. Early July, we'll host remote work edition of the Nomad Summit in Tallinn in Estonia. So we will have an event at Kultuurikartell.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, for your wise words, for sharing the wisdom with our audience.
And in the show notes, we'll have some links to some of your interesting articles on Substack and how to reach out to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pale. Thank you so much, Christoph. Good luck to all of us.
This episode of the Nomad Summit podcast was hosted by Christoph Hübner and Pala Bo.
No has.
The theme music was by Divyas Shea, aka Divi the Audio Nomad.
สวัสดีค่ะ
And it was produced by me, Pala Bo, of radioguru.co.uk.